up as a result of you receiving the approval?
Well, once we have our final construction number, we'll go to them and say, give us your absolute best deal, and at that point, we'll pick the investor. We picked the permanent lender, Massachusetts Housing Partnership, and we have a couple of banks lined up. Again, we want to figure the best deal for the construction lender. All of the other funds are lined up.
I only ask this for potential conflict of interest for myself. Is MHIC one of the possible lenders? Massachusetts Housing
Yes.
Investment? It is?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You also have funds that have been approved from the Yarmouth Municipal Housing Trust.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. And in fact,
at our last meeting, we signed an extension for the PNS to go to December 31st.
Okay.
So, as you said, you hope you pass by then.
And we also actually are getting a little bit of, well, I shouldn't say a little bit, 150,000 from the Barnstable County Home Consortium.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's lined up as well.
Lee?
Nothing.
Liz?
No comment.
Brad?
Just a quick one, nothing to do with the application, also looks fine and clean. I'm just surprised that when we reviewed this in December of 2017, the building was X, Y, and Z, it looked perfect, and yet you still fit in an elevator. What did you have to remove to make room? I'm wondering, I mean, because there was no relief here for the footprint or anything, so
Right. We didn't change the footprint, or we changed the footprint slightly, but not the total building coverage. We have a little bit more on the second floor of that building, where we used to have a sloping roof over the community center. We've pushed that a little bit, and we have and so we have one of the units that we kind of moved up there on the second floor, and that gave us the room to expand the community room.
Yeah.
Put in the elevator and put in a second common bathroom, as DHCD had requested.
Well done. That's the one thing caught my eye. I read it twice, going, I must have missed something, so.
Yeah.
So no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing your buildings there, and I think they're going to replicate the Dakota Partners property relative to Yarmouth Commons, and we've got a lot of good feedback relative to that, so I'm sure your buildings are going to look as well. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to grant the Commonwealth Community Developers a one-year extension to their planning board permit number 113 for redevelopment of 497 Route 28.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I'm abstaining.
Oh, you abstained. You made the motion and you abstained.
I can,
Okay.
I think. Can I?
Yes.
I think I can.
Probably cleaner if you didn't make the motion.
Well, that's what I was thinking, too.
I
I
didn't
never
realize.
make motions, I'm trying to practice. How did I do?
Fabulous.
I know how to read, Kathy.
Excellent reading.
I just think, I do think I should abstain, only because I happen to know the president of, and if, in fact, they become a partner in the development, as a capital finance partner, I would not want that to be any part of,
So
I
perhaps,
wouldn't want that to
perhaps
in
we
any way.
should make this cleaner.
Yeah. A different person should
Yeah.
probably make the
Okay,
motion if
fine.
you're going to abstain.
Yeah. Would someone, other than Joanne, like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that Joanne had offered.
Is there a second?
We need a second.
Second.
Sorry about
Any
that.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, Al. Good luck, Jim.
Thank you very much, and I thought that was a really good motion the first time.
Jim, just to give you
Yep.
a brief update, what I'll end up doing is I will write out a one-year extension that will then get signed by Tom as the chairman. I'll clock it in, and I will send it to you, and you'll need to get it recorded at the registry. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, excellent.
Thanks very much.
Okay, our next item is the VCOD Village Center Overlay District Site Plan Review Amendment to VCOD 2017-2-219-1. And this is in regards to Shoestring Property, Stu Bornstein. And I believe Mr. Riley is here this evening. Would you care to come up and give us an idea of what you're going to do?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Marty Riley, and I'm here tonight representing not only the present owners, which is Shoestring Properties LLC, who you've been dealing with for a
Yes.
number of years on this particular project, and also the future owners of the property, who is going to be an entity called Woodcrest. The residence is at Woodcrest LLC, and they've had a history of doing some nice projects, and I've been involved with them on those projects here in the town of Yarmouth, and I can speak to those in a minute. And the request that we have tonight is basically to modify petition VCOD 217-2, which was the planning board approval back in the year 2017, specifically as it relates to condition number 4, which was approved on December 20th, 2017. And it's related to the payment for the time of the payment for the affordable unit to be created on this 9-unit residential condominium project. The request that we're going to make this evening is compliant with and consistent with and in accordance with Section 4012 of the Town of Yarmouth zoning bylaw. And what it would do is it would allow the payment to be made at the start of the construction of the second triplex on the project, as opposed to the present requirement, which has that payment being made at the start of Phase 2, which is the residential component of the project. I also brought this, I just want to display this. This is a couple. Can you see that okay? This is a couple of representative projects that the principals in Woodcrest, the residences at Woodcrest have done in the town of Yarmouth, which have been very favorably received in the past, and I have been involved in both of those. The first is a depiction of the compound on Lewis Bay. It's at 29 Lewis Bay Boulevard, and you might recall that was something before the Zoning Board of Appeals, but that was 11 residential condominium units that were done. And the depiction there is taken from a painting that the artist Robert Kennedy was so taken, by the project that he actually did a painting of it and added it to his gallery and calls it the compound on Lewis Bay, but it happens to be the placemat that they use at the Riverway restaurant. The other project to the right is another one that we've done, and that's called the Residences at Inglewood Beach, which was the former location of the Red Rose Inn.
Yeah.
And that's kind of similarly nice. So that would be the quality of workmanship that we hope to bring to this project at the extremely important location, being right across from the town hall, right near the Bridgewater, college activities, and with all the things that are happening on Route 28. So if you could accommodate this request, that would be very helpful as this process begins. It's hoped for that some of the site work on the project will commence as early as maybe by December 1st, and hopefully construction would be undertaken in the spring. Hopefully this can be another positive project to point to, and the structure of this gives flexibility as to how it's done, whether it's all market rate or whether it's one affordable, or whether we exercise that option of making the payment in lieu of. So we thank you for your consideration and look forward to making this a positive part of the town of Yarmouth.
Brad?
Just a little torn. Is that on, Kathy?
It's on
Thank you.
now.
Just a little torn. As I've said to Mr. Bornstein over the years, I don't trust him. I'm sorry. I've said it to his face in these meetings. I'm on public record, so whenever I see the name Mr. Bornstein, I respect him, but I sort of flinch. I do have one question because I advertised for Highline. I'm looking at 27 Nantucket Street. Is that Highline?
I have an office there, yeah.
Oh, it's your office there. Okay.
Yeah, I
I'm
have an
looking
office
on.
at 27 Nantucket Street,
And
yeah.
I'm like, this can't be the Scudder family, or I have to recuse myself. Okay.
Yeah, no, they're not principals in the project, but I have my office there. I represent them
Okay.
on a
Sorry,
number
just-
of projects, but they're not involved in this project.
Okay. All of a sudden, we get a lot of, maybe...
I'm surprised I haven't met you there sometimes down there.
No,
coming through
Phil
the
and I
door.
get, Betsy and Phil and I meet quickly, and he goes, all right, are we done? Get out of here, thank you.
Yeah.
What's the, I understand why you're doing it. What's the delay in terms of days, weeks, months, and years of the beginning of the construction of second residential triplex building related to this project?
I think the reason is, as you probably know, the property has been on the market for sale as permitted, and the group that I'm involved with and representing is going to be buying it. And you can probably surmise that it costs a significant amount of money to buy the property. So it becomes less onerous to have to make that payment at the commencement of this construction of the second triplex, as opposed to having to do that at another layer of costs at the outset. So, in talking with the town manager and Kathy Williams and the building inspector and Mary Wagon, we tried to figure out what's the best way to do this that will allow this positive project to go forward, but in a way that, you know, can work for all parties. And that's what we looked at, and we came up with this, looking at the zoning bylaw, and in fact, it's totally consistent with that and in compliance
great.
with it.
I
You know,
just-
so, but that's the rationale for it.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to build the unit, or are they thinking they're going to take the payment?
Honestly, I don't know. I live in West Yarmouth, and I believe that, from one perspective, I think to do that as a completely market rate project would be very positive for the continued gentrification of West Yarmouth. We already have a number of projects on Route 28, the Dakota project, the project that was just on the agenda before us. And, you know, there is some sentiment in the town that even though there's a great need for affordable housing, that we're reaching a saturation on Route 28. So, you know, this would also give us the flexibility to try to do this as a full market rate project, you know, where when we get to that second building construction, we can say, do we want to do it as all market rate, or would we rather, you know, make the pay, you know, do it with one affordable? So it gives us some flexibility there, which I think is better for the town as well.
Sure.
So I think it can be a win-win for everybody,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
we hope.
Liz?
I have some questions about, Kathy, maybe you can help me with this. What if Phase 2 doesn't move forward? And then, or there's changes? What is the process? Can you describe the process that they would have to come back to the planning board for that, so we can talk about affordable housing, or, you know, any of those changes that this new owner, because we were presented, or at least the planning board at the time 2 years ago was presented a plan, and that's what these conditions are based upon, what was presented. But what if there are changes, or a portion of the phase is altered or not going to move forward?
I guess it depends on what's actually happening. Phase 1 was the commercial component, which is the dental lab, which is across the street. So it's not like they started the residential portion of the project, and this is Phase 2 of the residential. So if they moved forward, and technically if you created less than if you created 4 units, you wouldn't have to provide an affordable one at all.
Okay.
But because they have presented it with 9 units, they need to provide 1 affordable. I think the intent is, and the marketability of the project is to create all 9 units. If for some reason they wanted to do something that was significantly different, they would present it to town staff, and the building commissioner would determine whether any further relief or review would be required by the planning board or the ZBA.
If I could be helpful maybe in that, I mean, the whole intent of this is with the purchase price being what it is to do 9 residential units without question. And in the approval that was given, Phase 1 is already done, which is that commercial component with that dental-related supply company. So Phase 2 is solely the residential component. And again, it's the intention to do all 9 units. It just gives a little bit more flexibility
Yeah.
in making it less onerous, so that the day you close on the property, you don't have to pay another payment on top of what you're paying to acquire it, and then all the site work and everything else that you do in those early stages. And I think it does give it a little bit of flexibility to possibly even make it an entire market rate project, which might be positive for the town.
Yeah.
So I think it can be somewhat of a win-win-win.
Excuse me, so we don't get to meet the new owners then and talk to them about,
Nope, they're purchasing it with the conditions that we
okay.
would have on the
All right,
BCA.
and then I didn't see, where is exactly the money if they pay in lieu of the affordable unit?
Goes
Where
to the
does it-
Housing Trust.
It does go to the Affordable Housing Trust?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Those
So
are-
this would require that payment to be made in full upon construction of the second triplex,
Yep.
if in fact the decision was made not to build one affordable unit.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lee?
All set.
Joanne?
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
The project, as I remember it, and as I reviewed it, is essentially 3 units of 3.
That's right, 3 triplexes. I guess
So-
it's gone through many different iterations.
3 units of 3. First, they were 2 stories, now they're 1 story. I
Yeah.
think I've got the concept down. So originally, we approved that this payment, should it be, in lieu of an affordable unit, would be at the beginning of the first triplex.
That's correct, at the beginning of the Phase 2 residential
Yeah,
construction.
which is the first triplex. I would
Yes.
imagine it kind of started. And then, back in August, we came and asked for, not August, so August was the reduction in height from 2 to 1 stories, and maybe some other smaller adjustments. This request is to move the date of the payment in lieu, if in fact it is going to be a pilot, to the beginning of the second
Triplex.
triplex. Will we be seeing you again to move it to the beginning
Oh,
of
no,
the third
no,
triplex?
No, this is a final time. You could even, if you want, put that in as a condition of your
They would
approval.
We're just kind of, I'm sorry, Kathy.
They would need zoning board of appeals relief.
Yeah.
Alls we're doing is bringing, the condition that's in the VCOD site plan review is more restrictive than the zoning bylaw. Alls we're saying is let's take that extra restriction off and make him adhere to the zoning bylaw, which he would have to address his affordable unit prior to the start of, either make the payment in lieu before the start of the triplex, and/or one of the first or occupancy permit issued for that triplex would have to be the affordable unit. That meets the bylaw. He's just asking to go back to meeting our current zoning bylaw without any extra restrictions.
Got it. Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Don?
Yes, the plans that changed it from 2-story to 1-story, all of that is going to be adhered to? No changes in the architecture?
No, we're going to continue to work with the architect who worked on all those different iterations. And my understanding was that when it had the second story, the additional square footage, I think it was construed by many that it would be too costly, and maybe the market would not justify, the cost you might need to get for that large square footage. So I think the size of these units now, there's going to be 6 2-bedrooms and 3 1-bedrooms. I think they're of a really good size, where I think the cost to build them will make sense, and I think the ability to sell them, at a fair price on the market will also work. So I think it could be positive.
We've had the experience in another housing project further down 28, that would in fact, the folks that just preceded you, that component of solar panels was added to their design. Have you had a similar request or a similar intent?
You know, it's certain areas are more conducive, I think, to solar applications than others. I think this is a somewhat heavily treed site over here across the way, whereas there's other sites that get total southern exposure that it makes great sense to go with solar. But I don't think in this instance, unfortunately, the economics would work, and even the efficacy of it, I don't think would be that good, you know?
All right, I have nothing further.
Thank you. I can certainly see the concept of holding your capital for the first phase and then asking to pay for the, or create a affordable unit in the second phase. It kind of makes sense. In regards to the affordable unit, I serve on the Municipal Housing Trust as well, and we've dealt with some of these issues in the past. And if you look at the criteria for affordable housing relative to the individual, and you look at the cost relative to the mortgage, and now you have to factor in the condo fees and everything, it's difficult to make it work for affordable.
It really is. It really is.
From a hands-on perspective, I think that building the 9 market units like you mentioned, and then just paying the $114,125 in lieu of construction would really make sense.
I agree with you. Again, given living in West Yarmouth and being very familiar with everything that's going on Route 28 and all the affordable units that are presently being built out there, and the cost side of the ledger, I've had friends that do 40B projects and others, and some of them express a great concern that it's not even worth doing them anymore because you give the affordables away, and it really minimizes what profit margin you may have. So at least this does give the flexibility if we can go to do it all market rate, which I think would be very positive for the town, particularly across from the town hall near the college. And it gives us the flexibility of going in that direction, which I think we'd like to.
Yep.
But for some reason, if we didn't, we could still build the affordable in a way that wouldn't be onerous, which would prevent the project really from ever getting off the ground, you know?
And again, you're talking about starting construction the end of the year?
Yeah, we're finalizing now. We're proceeding now to move to construction drawings with this architect. And the closing on this property is going to take place sometime before the end of the month. And then proceed to begin the site work at that time, and then shortly thereafter, at the earliest time when we can get the construction permits, commence the actual construction, and hopefully make it positive.
Yep, absolutely.
So thank
Is
you
there a
very,
motion?
very much for your time.
Yeah, can I just, I'm sorry. There's a suggestion here. I just wanted to make it clear that part of the conditions are I'm just compiling all in one decision, all of the conditions from the previous 2 that are still applicable. So there's a motion here to make a change of the project is required to have 1 affordable unit in accordance with Section 412. Like I said, he just wants to meet the current bylaw.
Right.
He doesn't want any extra restrictions. And then I'm just listing out that would be incorporated into the VCOD site plan review decision, all your other conditions that you've already approved, and just so it's all in one place for the building commissioner.
Okay. Do we have a motion indicating the conditions?
Motion to amend the condition number 4 on VCOD 2017-2, the site plan review decisions, to read as follows. The project is required to have 1 affordable unit in accordance with Section 412. And I'll read the beginning of the paragraph for the conditions because they are already stated. But the applicable conditions from the Planning Board VCOD 2017-2 site plan review decision dated December 29, 2017, and VCOD 2019-1 site plan review decision dated September 25, 2019, have been incorporated into this section, into this decision, excuse me, and the project is subject to the following conditions as listed in the appropriate review decisions.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
So what will happen is I will redo the decision, and it will be
Yeah.
clocked in and forwarded.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, and appreciate your consideration, and look forward to making this
Very much. Good
positive.
luck with it.
Thank you. And we look forward to your
Looking
construction.
forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Too often we see plans presented, and it seems like forever before the
I
project gets
know,
started.
I know,
So
I know.
give us a good Christmas present.
I can't
You
tell
have
you,
to
I
come
can't
back.
tell you how many times I've driven by that, and I'd see that sign there, and finally, I think there were those changes made in size and other things that made it more feasible to do, and this vote here tonight is very helpful, I think, to making that project a reality for the good of the community, so.
If you
thank
have to come back, we may not be as nice next time.
I don't want to come back, not on this matter, anyway, maybe something else. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye now.
Good luck. Okay, the next item is the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness, MVP, Action Grant Application Support Letter.
Yeah,
To the Assistant Secretary of Climate Change.
Yeah,
That is the title.
nice job, Tom.
can I just make a quick statement? I've talked to Kelly Grant, who is Conservation Administrator, and she was going to be the one putting in the application. There's just a timing crunch with some other work that's going on, so she's not. I don't think we're going to be applying for this grant, so we don't need a letter of support. If you want to discuss it, you're certainly welcome to. It's certainly something we want to do in the future,
Yep.
whether it's through an MPP grant or free cash grant or something like that at town meeting, but it's not something that we're able to do with it requires a 25% match, and we were proposing to do that through staff time, and that's a lot of staff time to apply to one
There's
project.
nothing we can apply to this now?
Well, it needs to be done, the project would need to be done by June 30th,
Oh, yeah.
so it's a little bit difficult. If you want to discuss it and make a motion to support it, should we apply for it, that would be fine.
What's the feeling of the board?
The only question I would have is there, are there funding opportunities through this program?
Yeah,
That's what this would be. This would be for a
Yeah.
grant for like $25,000 in order to, or $30,000 in order to conduct a regulatory review of all of our different regulations to see how, make recommendations on how we might modify them to address climate resiliency.
I don't see those numbers. Unless I'm,
It's just a letter of support for the grant application. It's not getting into
Concept.
the nitty-gritty.
okay, all right.
The hurdle cap is,
time.
you mentioned matching, the matching amount from the town. Is that the primary hurdle?
It is because it's being done through, and it is a little bit, but it was being done and compensated for through staff time.
People, right.
People. So it was like,
Did anyone take a look at existing projects that are underway right now that might have, might fill that we're spending money on right now, or that we'll be spending money on this year, this fiscal year, that might relate broadly to this kind of a grant program? I mean, is the match has to be in people working on the,
you need to either provide a 25% cash, or you can do it with staff time. And so it was a case of, like,
It
you
isn't
needed like
merely
$6,000 or something worth of staff time.
so it isn't just identifying a pocket of money that's sitting over here that's in this family of projects.
This isn't just support of all different types of MVP grants. This was specifically part of one of the recommendations from the MVP workshop that we did.
Yeah,
was
right.
actually to review our different regulations with regard to an eye towards climate resiliency and different things that we could do to be better prepared. So that was one of the recommendations. There was also recommendations of doing a full evaluation of vulnerability of our infrastructure. And that's a much more involved project, and that's something that we definitely didn't think we could take on. So the idea was, well, maybe we could just do this right now. But in talking with Kelly and myself, because this would involve recommendations with regard to zoning, as well as the rules and regulations governing subdivisions. So may not have the time in order to do it right now.
Yeah, okay.
But we were talking about, maybe we'll look into a free cash grant come annual town meeting, maybe either for the resiliency and the vulnerability, or at least maybe the 25% match. This was an extra round for MVP. They usually only have the one. This was an extra round. We thought we might be able to do it, but looking at staff workloads, it didn't quite work out for us.
Okay. I'm just thinking, when I hear vulnerability and climate, and there are pockets of money that are spent by natural resources on erosion, on I'm getting tongue-tied because I've probably been looking at it for too long, but on things like, Carl comes forward to capital budget with various projects that are climate-related and related to us funding things that are primarily because we are a shore community. And why wouldn't some of those buckets of money act like or be disguised like a matching portion to support a vulnerability analysis that's taking a look at regulations?
You mean using capital budget money?
It's
in order to do that?
No,
Or-
it's a project that we've funded. So the town has already said or that we may fund in the future. I guess maybe it's an offline conversation about what are the restrictions on what the match is. I mean, sometimes matches from towns can be very broad.
Yeah.
Can be very broad. And maybe on this one, it might be narrower, but I can remember we used matching amounts for transit projects and the like that had really nothing to do with that particular grant, but it was a match that somewhere along the line supported that idea. So I'm not sure what the constraint is on the definition of what matching funds from the town is.
I don't think the main issue is just the matching funds, whether it's cash. It's still going to take a lot of effort on
People.
staff time, and we just don't have the time to do it
Got it.
by June 30th.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm thinking more
Long-term.
when in
yeah.
fact, we do decide to go forward.
Yep. Kelly Grant's been looking into this more closely, so she probably would have been able to answer
Okay.
the question with regard to what's allowed for the 25% match, but that's certainly something we can look
You know, wherever we can leverage investment in one area to create, it's kind of like anyway, I think I've made my
We
point.
try to do that.
Oh, I
mean,
know.
If we have some
We've been very
surplus in some
successful
area
at
and
it.
it would justify being able to
Yeah.
be applied to something, we
Oh,
certainly
sure.
do look at that.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question is, if we're not going to do this right now, will this be an item for the spring town meeting for authorization?
It could potentially be, I mean, right now, we're looking at it, we're looking for different free cash grant opportunities from the different division department heads. This is something that we are submitting for.
Thank you.
Kathy, if it's not time, it's money, right?
No, I think it's time, really, at this particular juncture. It would be even worse, I think, if we had to document it and have enough hours to do the 25%. But it's time. I mean, staff doesn't have the opportunity or time in order to do this and contribute to the process the way we need to by June 30th.
Could you hire a consultant to do
We
that?
definitely hire a consultant. The money would be used to hire a consultant, but they still, I mean, if you looked at the MVP workshop process, that was an extensive amount of town staff time that went into that.
Even without doing a review?
No, right, I mean, and we had a consultant for that as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's just a lot of work that goes in. I think everyone thinks you hire a consultant and they do all the work. They don't. The first thing they do is, let's have a staff meeting and you digest and give me all the information that's in your brain.
Exactly.
And then here's my draft, review it, and you end up, spending a lot of time marking up and editing that to get to the best product that's unique to Yarmouth.
Yep.
Okay.
I think actually, to be proactive, I think we should I'm in favor of approving this letter because it allows the staff, if they have the opportunity, that we've already voiced our opinion, that we're in favor of moving forward. Because if it might not be financial, or they can tap into a resource that's already been allocated and is somewhat relatable, the resources of human resources might be available through, let's say, the water department or natural resources or recreation or DPW. If they have the staff available, if they want to participate and take chunks of it, or Cape Cod Commission even assisting in some way. Yarmouth is very creative in finding ways to get things done. So I think I'm in favor of doing this tonight, and it doesn't mean anything besides just moving forward, them moving forward, so.
I think it just keeps us in a loop,
Yep.
Okay.
This guy.
Well, the emphasis of the letter would be for a grant that we were actually applying for, so it would just have to be modified.
Exactly.
Language that we're
Yeah.
just supporting the concept, and that we'll submit applications further down the road.
So why don't we wait for the new modification of the letter, making Kathy waste more time doing this? I'm sorry, anytime we have to go out and make Kathy and Karen and Kyle, 3 Ks up there, what is going on with
And
you?
Kelly.
And Kelly.
They only hire people whose names begin with K in community
All
development.
right. I don't think it's a good idea, but if it's symbolic, let's wait for the proper writing the way they want it, and we can take a symbolic vote, but I think it's better to use staff's time doing stuff we really need now, that's all.
I mean, you could also vote to support it and the final wording to be coordinated with your chairman.
That's what I
Yeah,
think. Just
yeah,
keep us in the
that's fine.
loop.
Yeah.
Change some of the verbiage, and I think that will be great, really.
But I'm just saying is, you could just do the vote now, and we don't make any changes. You just vote that you're in support of it with the final language of the letter to be coordinated with staff and the
okay.
chairman. That way, if it's a grant or if it's just a free cash grant or an MVP grant, we can tweak it along those lines. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
What did I
That was
say?
very eloquent, Kathy.
I'll have to watch the
I
tape.
am not even going to attempt to read.
No, that's all right.
I'm going to abstain on that one, so.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, moving right along. Follow-up special town meeting, zoning amendments.
We passed everything. Congratulations. But now we need to get the event sign policy recommendations to the Board of Selectmen to get on their, they need to make changes to their policy in order to coincide with ours. We have the list here. I don't think anything is particularly changed. If you're in support of this is something that we can just move forward with. I don't know whether you want to wait until the AG's office has looked at it, or I think
July.
they should make these changes regardless, but it's up to you guys. I just don't want someone to come and want to use this policy and not make any sense with relationship to the zoning bylaw change, which it technically is in effect.
Could they do that before July, before the AG chimes in?
I think they should. It'll be a little bit inconsistent between the two if for some reason it didn't get passed, but I don't really understand why it wouldn't.
Well, my point is the Irish Festival.
And that's my concern. I don't want something to happen where somebody needs to use it and we don't have this second portion of the change in place.
Excuse me, Kathy, can the Board of Selectmen actually adopt a waiver of their policy for the Irish Festival if that's an issue? They can vote on a waiver of the policy.
They might be able to. I don't
For
think that they were ever presented with that option. It happened fairly quickly last year. It is a possibility, I guess.
Yeah. It's just a policy. It's not a bylaw or anything.
Right.
Their
We've got some
policy.
time, too, so
Right.
maybe we could work on that.
So,
I think this looks clean and good. It's literally changing the verbiage from nonprofit to profit.
Right, it's pretty straightforward.
So I'm playing the role of Liz right now. I think this one's okay to vote on. It gives Mark something to fall back on, it gives the selectmen something to fall back on, and the ball is now in their court, and the 5 men and women can decide if they want to take this under their wing, but I think we should move this to their plate.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I would agree to that, too, but we're now a week from the approval at town meeting. Has any of this been forwarded to the AG?
I can't forward anything to the AG until I get the certified articles from the town clerk. Everything else is all ready to go. I've
That's
made
in
the
pro-
change to the
that's in
map,
process.
everything's ready to go.
Okay.
So, I mean, with the chairman's permission, I would make a motion to accept this and forward it to the selectmen.
I'll second it.
Second. Several. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
And I, too, was worried about, we had something with the tattoo years ago when we had the adult entertainment bylaw, and we had it on our desk, and while we were having it on our desk, they snuck in and put in Great Island Tattoo, and we had nothing, and so it was legal. So this way, at least they have something they can fall back on.
True. Okay, next we have meeting minutes. We have 5.
Oof, wow, that's a lot of typing. No wonder you don't have time.
I know it, huh?
Yes.
Okay, I guess
Brad, myself, Lee, Joanne, Tom Barron.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of August 21st, 2019.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
September 10th.
He's here.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of September 10th.
Second.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Yeah, you're off. Both you guys. September 18th.
God,
Hold on,
let me
slow
write
down.
it down.
Yeah, I take the minutes from my church, and it's tough sometimes to keep up with everybody. It's like,
All
hey.
right, so Liz and Lee abstain, I'm
It's
good.
on YouTube.
Yeah, but it's days later.
September 18th.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
October 16th.
Hold on, give her a chance. 4:02
Thank
again.
you, fellow scribe.
Like I said, years ago, the clerk really used to take the minutes. Minutes of October 16th. What was, oh, this was the big hearing.
That's
Okay.
Public hearing,
This is a
yeah.
doozy. I just want to check something first. Oh, thank you for noting that I had to leave at 6:20 to get to church to take minutes. So
I didn't say to get to church, but
thank you.
you get to church on time.
There we go. I make a motion to, I don't know if I should I,
That's probably better.
I wasn't here for the entire meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
And the last one is the special town meeting, October 29th. Not much there.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of October 29th.
Second.
Hold on. No, it's fine. Should we hold off on this until we get Mr. Vincent here?
Yeah, probably best.
Because I don't know if you want to record a 303 vote.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
that's fine.
Yeah,
We
we can hold
typically
it.
like to wait.
Do I
Good
need to-
catch.
Do I Make a motion to postpone?
I'll just defer it.
Okay.
We're good.
I was at the meeting, but
I didn't.
I didn't sit with you guys.
Yeah.
Were you at, honestly, hand on across and all the stuff? I mean, then let's take the vote. If you were in the room,
Yeah, I
You
was.
can amend the
Yeah, I can
minutes.
amend it to say you're there, and then we
Yeah.
can vote on it.
okay, then let's do that. Thank you for letting us know. And sit with us next time. You didn't take the barbs, you gotta take the barbs with us. You got lucky with this one.
Okay.
So I make a motion to accept the minutes of October 29th as amended.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, so now we got 402.
Okay. Board of Appeals, Kathy sent out some decisions from the Board of Appeals. Committee updates, board members. Any
I
update?
have two items from planning. One, the Elder Services of Cape Cod and the Islands is offering a radon testing a package. It's costly at about $30, but it's for those who are interested in understanding whether they have radon issues. It's a complete package. There is a number to call. It's 508-394-4630, extension 524, for further information.
Who is that with, Tom?
This is with the Elder Services of Cape Cod and the Islands. And another housing effort is being made by Lower Cape Community Housing Incorporated, and they are looking for volunteers to assist their program. Their newsletter, their little brochure here says, "We are in need of volunteers who can help with fundraising and publicity. We also need volunteers who can write grants. We'd like to have future residents and their families join our meetings." It's primarily a group based in Harwich, but they're open to all suggestions from the full Cape area.
Any other updates?
I attended my first CEDC meeting this week, Community and Economic Development, so I'm getting my feet wet on that. That committee is primarily charged with the distribution and decision-making associated with the tourism funds that are generated through the various room taxes. So there's about, I guess, $350,000 or so that is generated by that. And requests come in, the round of grant requests is starting for tourism grants. Places like the Cultural Center and the St. Patrick's Day Parade and those kinds of organizations will be applying for some tourism funding opportunities. The other committee I represent for the planning board is Capital Budget Committee, and we are in the middle of our reviews. We've completed all of the department reviews. We finished the schools today, and we'll be deliberating over the next month with our recommendations going to FinCom a month from now on December 4th. So we have a month to sort through all of the requests.
Very good. Lee?
Yeah, the Water Resources Committee met Monday and took a vote to recommend a method to the selectmen for paying for the Phase 1 of the sewer program, of the Clean Water Program. And we also made a recommendation to go with the DHY rather than go it alone as Yarmouth standalone. And that goes to the selectmen, and then it's up to them.
Make a recommendation to them.
Any, I apologize, Mr. Chairman, any concern that the town of Harwich did that major vote and asked basically their town administrator to step aside, and they're paying him for the next few weeks, and then he's leaving?
That didn't, I mean, that didn't come up.
I know, but the stumble came over the first water sewer problem, as Harwich was linking it with Chatham, and the price was supposed to be X, and it came in X times 9, and nobody's taking the fall for it. And the selectmen were just up in arms that the town administrator didn't pay more closer attention. I used to speak for a living, and I was paid highly to do so. Okay, thank you. Take foot out of mouth, that the town administrator didn't pay closer attention, and I think that's going to have ramifications on the Harwich vote. I really do. I think there's going to be a long, slow process to bring Harwich into the fold.
Well, at a joint meeting with the other two towns a month or so ago, maybe 2 months, Harwich is, the people in Harwich need more education and understanding as to how the program is going to proceed going forward. And that's one of the reasons why they delayed having any articles on the special town meeting in the fall. So it's all going to come in the spring. And it'll be up to, I understand that the 3-town group on the DHY are working on a public relations program and how to get the word out and get the message to all the towns. But individually, each town is working on a program to do that as well. We're working on doing direct mail or mail through water bills, and we're continuing on with our public relations, our meetings, and trying to explain to the public. The real problem here is that it doesn't seem to be a lot of interest. I mean, there's people that show up to the meetings, but they're not big meetings. They're not large groups. And the fear is that we want to step up our game here between now and May, because we don't want everybody to show up at the last minute and say, well, we don't want to do this. So.
Yeah, I would echo what Lee has said. I was at that 3-town meeting a month or so ago, and Harwich residents were the most vocal, and apparently not a whole lot of information has gotten out to them, and so the effort for communication to all three towns is important. I do have to compliment the Water Resources Committee for getting that video out. That is very informative, and it was done very, very nicely.
We had a community preservation committee meeting this afternoon, and we looked at 4 applications, and we have a total of 12. So we haven't started voting on them yet, but we will within the next week or two after we go through the 12. And then the Community Preservation Committee is set to meet with the selectmen on the 14th. Correspondence, Kat?
Just what I've been sending you guys.
Updates?
I was going to talk about the video, but it's on the town website. It's very good.
Yeah, it was.
Kyle Pedicini did a really good job.
He did, he did.
And he voices it. It was really good. He did a great job. And there was a lot of good interviews, Tom Nicanello and
Yeah.
Rob Angel and a lot of Jack McCormick. And
It's nice to see
Manning.
Bob
It was
there.
nice to get like people, yeah, it was, it really was. I haven't seen him in a while.
Too bad he left the committee, but he was,
That kind of video should be given or emphasized in the other two towns as well, because I think it just carried the message very nicely.
it does.
You know, it's interesting, I'm sure Kyle's already thought of that, or Rich has, about making sure that the video is accessible off of the DHY website, but that's a
Yeah.
good question. I'll double check on that.
Yeah.
Then all the speakers with the water in the background, too, just kind of ties into everything.
They showed it,
Little strategy there.
You bet.
they showed it before special town meeting too, out in the lobby, so people were able to watch it then.
Yeah, that's right, we had, and you know, we were there, Lee, you were there, and Tom, but we didn't get a lot of takers. I mean, people just weren't interested in it. It surprised me.
It's disturbing.
We had a little booth set up there, and we had that video going.
You didn't give away anything free?
No, we didn't have any pens or pencils or anything like
Single-serve water bottles.
that. Yeah, there you go. That went over nice, yeah.
Single
You're
use.
smart, Alex.
I know.
Okay, our next meeting is November 20th, if we have anything lined up, and then December 4th. Item 13,
Make a motion to adjourn.
second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you so much.